Hit record and then share. Okay, can you see the screen all right?
Yep.
Cool. And get rid of this now. Everything is so difficult. Alrighty, well, welcome to the virtual book launch for Sentinels Awaken, which is this one. It's just finally out there and live, and I really appreciate you all joining me today to celebrate the launch. So just a few words about me. So I'm Helen Garraway, and I'm the author of Sentinels Awaken. And I began writing, I suppose, about 4 years ago, 2016, when unfortunately my mum passed away and my daughter went off to university, and I was suddenly home alone with lots of time on my hands and just me and the cats. So I began to write, and I just kept writing, and sort of 2 years later, I had 7 books written down, and then I decided I ought to do something with them. It's all very well writing them, but then I need to do something with them. So I then started editing and began to actually start the self-publishing route, which was quite a steep learning curve, and everything was new. You don't know what you don't know, so it was very much a case of asking lots of questions and doing lots of research and figuring out how you actually publish a book. But we've made it, and I have published a book. So I thought I'd just read the cover blurb just to give you some context of the book, and then open up for questions if anybody had a question. And then I'd read you an excerpt from the book, maybe just one of the chapters, and give you an introduction to the actual book itself. So without further ado, I will read the cover blurb. So as a 3,000-year-old threat reemerges, only one man has the power to awaken the world's greatest protectors and restore order to the realm. He just doesn't know it yet. When Gerald Haven, a captain in the King's Rangers, discovers treason at the highest level, he knows immediately that the knowledge puts his life at risk. And indeed, though he expected the ailing king to shield him, the ambitious crown prince sentences Gerald to death. What hold does the prince have over his weakened father, and who or what is he protecting? As Gerald flees for his life, he is rescued by the enigmatic Lady Leandri, a goddess who, according to legend, once saved the land of Remagran from malevolent wild magic users known as the Ascendants, by raising a veil to nullify their power and exiling them. Now, with signs that her veil is weakening and the Ascendants are creeping back into power, she has returned and is in dire need of Gerald's help. For though he doesn't know it, Gerald possesses a rare gift. By chance, he touches a revered sentinel tree and awakens Balerion, one of the lady's personal guard, who have been sleeping in the strange tall trees since they were last called to battle. Aided by Balerion and an old friend, Jennery, Gerald begins his journey to help Lady Leandri save Remagran once more. But time is running out. As it was with the king, the old guard lords are everywhere being usurped, attacked, and assassinated, while their heirs behave strangely and refuse to honor the lady as Remagrans have done for millennia. Gerald must unravel the mystery of the Ascendant's return, stop the sinister force that is dividing good families through bloodshed and betrayal, and rescue the king. And his troubles are only just beginning. Sentinels Awaken is the first book in the saga of Remagran, a vibrant ancient world of high fantasy suffused with magic and adventure. So that is the synopsis of the book. So before I actually go and read you an excerpt from the book, was there anybody want to ask any questions? Start us off before I launch into reading some of the book itself, whether it be about the book or my journey to self-publishing, which I must admit was quite a steep learning curve.
What was the inspiration for the series?
I really started to write a book that I enjoy reading. So it was very much, I'm a real lover of, well, I read virtually anything, but I do love fantasy books. And my mother was a voracious reader of anything that was available. So I grew up on a wide range, but my preference is fantasy. And I ended up, they always say, write a book or write about what you know. And I can't admit that there's not a lot I knew about enough to write a book about it. So I thought I would make it up. So that led me to fantasy, which enabled me to make up everything, which was quite good, from the world itself to the creatures that lived in it to the sentinels that would be awoken. And on that note, before I go any further, I just wanted to share about one of my inspirations, which I will try and reshare my content again, is my cat Alfie, and you'll often find him traipsing across my video screen on most occasions, but he's also the inspiration, if I can get it to change, for one of my characters, which is an Arafel. An Arafel is a kitten-like creature that's very fluffy and cute and cuddly, but he has scaly wings and scaly tail. And that inspiration came from Alfie, because the way he sleeps, he just makes me think of a sleeping dragon. He honestly, the way he lays his chin on the floor, flat on the floor, and his body curves around, he just looks like a dragon. And then that made me think of, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have a cute flying baby dragon flittering around, causing people trouble? And that became the Arafel. So to be quite honest, I couldn't tell you how I came up with the name Arafel. It just sort of became an Arafel, which was what the name was. So it just sort of worked, which was quite nice.
And rid of the police officer behind me.
I don't think that was a question. Was that a question, or is it? Nope.
I think it's feedback.
Yeah. So that got me started, and that's where the Arafels came from. And again, I love playing with words, and that's how the Sentinels came to be, because really the name, the Sentinels, is usually spelt with an E, but I like playing with words, and I wanted the idea of a guardian or a protector, but Sentinel with an E always makes me think of artificial intelligence and computers and science fiction more so than fantasy. So I just changed the E to an A, and I had my Sentinels. So it was very deliberate, and it's the fun of playing with words and just changing the words and yet being able to give a meaning. So that's really cool. So I quite like that. So I will read a section from the book just to give you a flavor, because I know that we don't have a lot of time. So I will start, and then we can go back to some more questions afterwards if there's anybody that wants to ask anything further. So I'm going to read you chapter 9, and they've basically sort of escaped from old Vespers and have found an inn to stop and rest and freshen up, have a bath and chill out, basically. So they're in the bar having a beer, just relaxing. And finally, at last, the barkeep called time, and his customers started to straggle out into the damp night. Many eyed the glimpse of the moon peeping through the clouds, surrounded by a glowing haze, maybe thinking about catching moonbeams for themselves. Gerald grasped the smith's sleeve. "Friend," he said, "let me walk with you. I want to check on my horse, which is in your stable." Oh, sorry, my screen's doing something. The smith squinted at him and lurched as the fresh air took its toll. He was grateful for the strong arm keeping him straight. Valerian followed behind, watching the street. "A word of warning," Gerald said. "Old magic should be guarded, not bandied about in public alehouses. Do not underestimate its power to influence people." "Old magic?" scoffed the smith. "None around here. There's nothing but stories, no matter what the father says." "Guardians protect, and in turn are protected," Gerald intoned. "Keep the line, watch for the lady." The smith froze mid-step and rubbed the back of his neck. "I don't know what you're talking about." Gerald stopped behind the smith in the middle of the street, aware of Valerian slinking through the shadows, his presence reassuring. "The guardian will need protecting, as will the mooncatcher. They are few, too few," he said. "You shouldn't have spoken of it tonight. Men will covet it and expect you to lead them to it. Don't lead them to the guardian." He placed his hand on the smith's chest. "The time is coming. You must hold your promise and guard the line." The smith swallowed. "What line? There is no line." "Gerald, come quickly. I smell smoke, lots of smoke." Gerald stiffened as Intalia's fearful voice reached him. An icy shiver flashed down his spine. "You fool," he whispered. "We are too late." And he took off, sprinting down the high street towards the hostelry situated at the junction at the bottom, Valerian on his heels. The smith staggered along behind him, straightening up as he smelled the wood smoke drifting in the cool night air. No, he wailed as he rounded the corner and saw the flames licking up the side of the wooden boards that clad the hostelry. The squeals of agitated horses in the barn blended with the clanging of the emergency bell. People tumbled out of the nearest buildings, dressed in whatever clothes they could grab, as fire threatened all nearby buildings being built from wood. The people began forming a bucket line from the well to the burning building, rushing to splash water on the hissing flames. Gerald loomed up in front of the smith. Sylvie, your mother, which room? What? The smith stared at him. How do you know my mother? Your family, man. Gerald shook him. Whereabouts would your family be? He flung his hand towards the burning building. The colour drained even further from the man's face. He started towards the steps as two small girls came tumbling down into his outstretched arms. Jilly, he shouted over the roar of the flames. Where's your mother? He hustled them away from the building. She went to help Grandma, the young girl cried, holding onto her father's arm as her body shuddered in terror. His arms full of children, the smith looked at Gerald. Help them, he pleaded. They'll be upstairs at the back. Her room looks over the courtyard towards the trees. He turned the children, leading them away from the heat of the scorching flames. Gerald paused long enough to divert a bucket of water to dump over his head, shuddering at the shock of the cold water, before running up the steps. He flinched as a roaring tendril of flame reached towards him. He gritted his teeth, tossed his dampened cloak over his head, and darted around the fire and into the house. The smith handed his children off to one of the women, hovering in horror. As he turned, he grabbed Valerian's arm and pointed him towards the barn. Quick, he yelled, the horses. And then he ran into the burning building after Gerald. The front door led into a communal living space. The hangings had all gone up in flames, and fiery tendrils ran greedily across the beams. Gerald's cloak blocked most of the heat as he dashed through the parlour and headed for the stairs. The heat was intense, but the smoke was worse. It was thicker downstairs. It thinned as he reached the top of the stairs and stumbled across a woman collapsed on the floor. He turned her over and searched for a pulse. She was still breathing. He levered her over his shoulder and, hand balanced against the wall, descended the stairs as fast as he could. He snatched his hand back as the heat scorched his palm. As he reached the bottom of the stairs, he ran into the smith. He passed the unconscious woman to him. Take her, he gasped, and turned and dashed back up the stairs. The smith ran for the front door, bursting through a swirl of smoke and flames. Frantic hands reached for the smith and helped him lay his wife on the ground. They poured buckets of water over his head as he gasped for breath. He shook the water out of his eyes and turned back to the house. No, you fool, it's too late. A man restrained him as they all looked towards the flames, blocking the front door. Without pausing, Gerald bounded back up the stairs. Keeping his face muffled and his hands off the wall, he halted on the landing and kicked in the first door he came to. The room was smoke-filled but empty. He moved on to the next room, similarly filling with thick black smoke. Coughing, he tried to filter the air through the damp material of his cloak. A low groan caught his attention, and he wafted the smoke away from his face. Sylvie, he croaked, and clearing his raw throat, tried again. Sylvie! He found her huddled in the corner under a sheet. She had managed to tip her water jug over her. The dampened material steamed, but she had been overwhelmed by the ever-thickening smoke. Gerald ducked under the sheet and felt her neck. She lived, but not for long, he thought, desperately trying to see a way out. The guardian jerked under his hands. Don't let them fail, she pleaded. Her grip on his arm was unexpectedly strong. Julie knows what to do. She just needs time. Her eyes streamed from the smoke, and she slumped in his arms. Gerald scooped her up and staggered towards the door. She was much heavier than she looked. Hot embers drifted in the hallway. Red tendrils of burning flame licked up the walls, scorching him. His shirt sleeves shriveled, the flames blistered his skin, and he stumbled back into the bedroom towards the bed, hissing in pain. He laid Sylvie down and leaned out the window. Behind him, the flames extended up the wooden doorframe. He turned back and slammed the door shut. Yanking down the curtains, he beat uselessly at the fire before stuffing the material along the bottom to block out the smoke. Returning to the window, he peered out. A pulley jutted out from above the hayloft in the adjacent barn. He leaned out, teetering over the windowsill. It was out of his reach. The guardian coughed behind him. Stick. Gerald turned. She was pointing at a hooked stick propped up in the corner. He grabbed it and leant out of the window, reaching for the rope. The hook caught and he pulled it towards him. Down below, Valerian was leading the hysterical horses out of the barn. Now, I'm just going to pause and check. Are you hearing me all right? Because I'm getting some feedback. You hearing okay? Yeah. Keep going then, just to make sure. Valerian, he bawled. Hayloft. He frantically pointed as he tossed the stick aside. Bless the man, he understood immediately and disappeared into the barn. Gerald looped the rope around the guardian's chest and dragged her over to the windowsill. He flinched back as flaming red embers caressed his cheek. He levered Sylvie out of the window as fast as he could, and the rope took the strain as Valerian gathered the slack. Gerald paused as Sylvie's hand cupped his face. Her hand was silky soft and cool against his scorched skin. He leaned into it. "The lady bless you, lad," she said in a husky voice. She was staring right through him, her eyes glassy. "Aye, my lady, I'll give him what I can," she said as she focused on his face. She kissed him on the lips as the light faded from her eyes, and she was jerked out of his grasp as Valerian worked the pulley. Gerald flinched back as her will zinged through his blood. His heart raced as a fresh green wash flowed through his body, meeting scorched skin on the outside, making his body a living battlefield. His heart stuttered as he tried to assimilate the opposing forces, and he dropped to his knees. Steam rose from his tattered clothes. His skin gleamed with sweat, the only sign of the body's internal struggle. Leaning against the window frame, he gasped for breath as black smoke billowed around him. The rope swung in front of him, and he cast about for the stick, and then realized the fire had consumed it. The room was alight. The fire roared like a furnace behind him, the heat intensifying on his back as the room was engulfed in flames. He looked up at the pulsing moon watching overhead as distant rumbles heralded the start of the building's collapse. And I'll pause there. You'll have to read the book to find out what happens. But that is their peaceful night. They never ever get a peaceful night, so there's always something going on. So that's a taster of the Sentinels Awaken. Ta-da! my debut novel. So, were there any questions? There is a chat screen if anybody would rather just put the question in the chat rather than ask it, but feel free.
Yeah, Helen, it's Jill. I have a question for you. Just listening to you read that, and thank you so much for sharing it and bringing it to life for us all. So when you're writing, how much would you write at one time, and when do you know when to stop as well? It's like, do you just kind of write, or are you just kind of thinking of one section at a time? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it does vary. I'm a bit of a haphazard writer. I sort of do the start and the end, so I know where I'm starting and I know where I'm ending, and then I've got to fill in the middle. And then as I start writing, I get ideas just out of the blue. I think, oh, I could make them do this, or I could make them do that. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and I'll write that chapter and I'll slot it into the order where I think it'll fit. And then I'll go back to the beginning and keep writing from where I was. And then something else will pop up and I go, oh, that's a really good idea. I need to write it now before I forget. So I have to write it there and then I'll slot that in. And in the end, I join it all together. And it's all like a jigsaw puzzle. And it all just, when it just clicks into place, it's like, wow, it really works.
Wow.
And then there's the picture with Alfie. I do a storyboard with the Post-it notes. So I do one Post-it note per chapter and make sure that it flows, and then I can move the chapters around if I need to, and then that's when I can go back and edit the chapter if I need to. But yeah, so I'm a bit haphazard. I wouldn't call me a planner.
Thank you.
No worries.
How many edits of the book did you do?
Say again, sorry?
How many edits of the book did you do?
How many edits? Lots. There's lots. Oh my goodness. The trouble is you edit it and then you have to put it down and go away from it for a while, because the more times you read it, you see what you expect. So you have to have a break in order to be able to read it afresh every now and then. But I edited it, I couldn't even tell you, so many times. And then it went to a development editor, and then it went to a copy editor, and then it went to a proofreader. And I can guarantee you there is still an error in here somewhere. Somebody is going to find a full stop where there should be a comma, or there's a comma where there should be a full stop, and it will drive me nuts. Because as most of you know, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I'll hate to have it, but it'll have to wait till the second edition to be corrected. So yes. So, any more questions? So
go on, Helen. You said you started in 2016.
Yeah.
2020. So in that 4 years, how many have you written? Obviously, you've got this one and it's out there and it's published, which is just amazing. But then how long do we have to wait to then?
Yeah, so I'm editing. Yeah, I'm editing book 2 now. Well, they're all written. I have written 7 plus a novella. So they're written,
Wow.
and I've done a first run through. So they're all there. I've just got to do the editing, and it's the editing and the revising that takes the time, because that's where you have to go back in and make sure that it actually works. And the thing I find the most difficult out of all of it is the timeline, because I sometimes have multiple threads and people are doing things in parallel. You've got to make sure that they all end up at the same place at the right time. And I find that quite challenging, just keeping everything in alignment and making sure that they do all arrive at the same place to do whatever it is they need to do at that time. So, but yes, so book 2, I'm currently editing. I'm kicking off the cover on the 19th of this month. So we'll be starting on the work for the cover of the book on the 19th. And I've got until December to finish my edits, and then it'll go to the copy editor. It's been through the development editor, and she's a thumbs up. So there's lots of good stuff in there, and she loved it. So that was a really good sign. So make sure you read 1, because book 2 is even better. And I'm hoping it always takes longer than you think it will. It's quite surprising how long all of the revision and the edits and all of the processing takes. I'm aiming for Easter to get book 2 out, and then this time next year for book 3 is the plan. They don't hold me to it. As I say, I always overestimate what I can do, and it all takes a lot longer than I expect it to, which is a little frustrating. And a lot of the time you're waiting for feedback to come back, and then you can't do your next bit until you've got the review back to tell you what to correct or what to look at. Because invariably there's something that you think is brilliant and somebody else will look at it and they'll say, but that doesn't make sense. And then you have to go and figure out why not. And that's the work. That's when you've got to figure out how to make it work after all. But yeah, but I must admit, as I said, I wrote them for me. And the trouble is I love them. And of course I love them because I wrote them. But I get lost in the story. Each time I go to edit, I get lost in the story thread and I forget that I'm supposed to be editing. And I get to a chapter and I think, oh, I've read it. I didn't edit it. I've just read the story, which is quite funny, but it takes me twice as long then because I have to go back and do it again. But there you go.
Sorry, one last question.
Sure.
Did you plan to write so many in one go? Were you just looking to write a book and then suddenly it just kind of morphed
I started
into something
with,
so
yeah, I started with the intention with one book, and as I was writing one book, I knew it wasn't going to fit in one book. So then I was thinking I'll do a trilogy, so I'll do 3. So the first 3 is a trilogy. It does fit together, but then I kept writing in the world, and I've got, as I say, 4 more books plus a novella in that world. Yeah, and lots of other ideas bubbling for other stories. So it's just having the time to write them and edit them, and it's just all of it just takes time. So I'm just focusing on getting 2 and 3 out, I think. But it does take you away from the writing. So because I'm doing all this, I don't have time to write. And they always say you should write every day, but there are only so many hours in a day, which is the challenge.
Makes sense.
Yeah, but I love it. I absolutely love it. I'd so wish I'd started doing it earlier. I wish I'd started writing earlier, but it is what it is. I'm writing now, which is the main thing, but it is such good fun.
Yep.
And for those of you that, sorry, say again.
In terms of self-publishing, I know, like, from what we've talked about, there's a lot of things that you've had issues with. Like, what are you going to change when you do the second book?
Definitely give myself more time, be a little bit more realistic in my deadlines. By putting my deadlines in too early, I just stressed myself out because I was getting frantic that I was going to hit a deadline. Certainly with, it it was the learning curve was in order to put a review link in the back of your ebook, you need to have your book up on Amazon. And to put your book up on Amazon to get the review link, you have to put a publish date in. So of course, I was so determined we were going to launch today that I put October the 11th in. And then we were at the beginning of October and I still hadn't got my final files back. And I was starting to panic because Amazon say if you miss your deadline, and you don't get to post another book for a year, so you've had it, they ban you. So you really have to hit your deadline. You can move it once, but if you miss it, then that once time you've moved, then they won't let you post another ebook for a year. And of course, I was getting really stressed out because my final files hadn't arrived and I was still waiting for them. So that was quite stressful. But again, you have to put a stake in the ground at some point and aim for it. Otherwise, you're never, ever going to publish it. So yes, so give myself more time. But find more beta readers if anybody's interested in reading the early versions. Or typo hunters, anybody who wants to read my book and find the typos, then let me know. I'll give you an advanced copy. Yes, you will? Okay, well, Jill's got one. Yes, so, because yes, as I say, no matter how many times you look, something always slips through. And as the more times you look, you see what you expect to see. So your eye runs over it as well. That's why you need fresh eyes to check and read.
Reading it backwards as well. That was always the hint I was told when I was very young and starting out in marketing is if you read the text backwards, then you see individual words. It doesn't help so much with punctuation, but it does help with spelling.
For spelling. Ah, that's good. I mean, the other one was that it's reading out loud, because when you're reading out loud and you stumble over something, it's normally because the sentence doesn't necessarily flow right. And hearing it out loud or in a different format usually helps you see things like going from Word to a PDF. Again, you suddenly see things you didn't see in Word, but you see it in the PDF version. So yes, very true. Yeah, it keeps you busy, keeps us going. That's for sure. And I do have a competition for all you lovely people that joined today. If I can share my screen. Yes, trying again. I'm afraid, Jen, I'm using your Apple laptop and it is just, I just can't get the hang of it.
Shared it once, I'm sure you can do it again.
I know. No, I'm in the wrong, keep bringing up the wrong bits.
It's the green button down in the middle.
Thank you, getting flustered. It's not coming up.
Jen, I think we have to wish you happy Thanksgiving. I understand it's Thanksgiving in Canada, so
it is.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. I have a lot of people in the background. We've just put the turkey in, so I'm just been pottering around. I'll be logging off once this is done. It'll be a lot of food.
Great.
Well done. It sounded fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I was driving then, but I tuned you in.
Excellent.
I was listening to you while I was driving, which was really good. You know, I like the
Well, you like to hear it
audio.
anyway, don't you? Yeah.
The audio version. Yeah. So,
We'll be getting the audiobook then.
Michelle was having problems getting on. Has she gone on yet?
She was
I
on
think
brief.
I let Michelle in.
Oh, she can't see you, but she can hear you. So.
Oh, excellent. Well, that's the main thing. Sorry, Alfie's
Yeah,
come
yeah.
So here's
That's all right,
Alfie.
yeah.
He's back to visit, just on cue. So the competition for all of you lovely people, just for you who are joining me today, is there are 2 signed copies. So there's 2 of these. 2. If you answer this question, who was the inspiration for the Arafels, Lily or Alfie? And then there's a link on the screen. I tried to copy it into the chat and it wouldn't let me copy it in. So I'm sorry, you're going to have to write it down, which is not very nice.
Right.
Not a very nice URL, but I will post it to my webpage on my website, which is helengarraway.com. So I'll put the link there for you, but I didn't publish it because I only wanted to keep it for the folks who joined the call. And the draw is open until 8:30. So you just need to go onto that link, answer the question and submit, and then that will go into the draw for a signed copy. And they'll be here next week. Unfortunately, these are my proof copies, that my author copies still haven't arrived yet, but they are supposed to arrive next week, which will be really good.
It looked great.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. I just love the cover. You know, this guy that did it, he actually designed
Yeah.
the artwork, and it's just amazing. Especially when you
It looks
open
better
it
in real life.
straight across. Yeah, panoramic. It just looks beautiful.
Yeah. When you open the whole thing up. Brilliant.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to do with the background, but you've not quite got all of the Sentinels Awaken
No,
on
you
there.
can see enough. You can see enough.
But yeah, it looks nice. Yeah, it is amazing. I
Yeah.
can't wait for the next one, because in my head I've already pictured what the next book cover is. So we'll see if the designer can actually put it on paper.
Pull
What
it
I see
off,
in my
yeah.
head. Yeah, get it out of my head, which will hopefully. So just check the time. We've got 10 minutes. So 7 minutes, I
Alright.
suppose. We ought to be on the time. But
So
anything
Helen,
else?
quick technical question then.
Yeah.
When you put in the URL.
Yep.
Which takes you to Rafflecopter page, and then what do you do to get into your?
That should take you straight to the. Is it not taking you straight to the?
No, it gives you a get started or a login page.
Oh, well, I can see who's on here. We got. It should take you straight to the login page, and you should just see a chart that tells you,
Okay.
Enter the answer. Answer this question for an entry, and then there was follow me on Twitter for another entry, and then tweet that you attended the virtual book launch for a third entry, and that will give you 3 chances in the draw, sort of thing.
Okay. So it's asking me for email address and what's your password.
Oh no, that's not working then. Typical.
Okay, maybe I put it in wrong, because I took a photo of it. Maybe I'll try it again.
Yeah. If not, I'll send it out. As I say, I'll publish it on the website, because there's probably not that many people will see it other than this at this time of night. So, and as I say, it's open until 8:30, so you've got an hour after the call to go and do it as well. Best laid plans.
Learning, isn't it?
It is. Okay. So yes, so we're live. This is it, and I wanted just to obviously take the moment. So it's only one time that you ever launch your first book, so that's why I thought we'd do this and just celebrate it. Oh, goes my phone. And then I suppose the last thing that I was doing, and if you're following me on Twitter or Instagram, you'll see I've started the Sentinel sighting campaign. So, oh dear, I should just leave these slides up really, because then it might be easier for me trying to figure out how to post them. But basically, this campaign, I'll try and change the sightings. So yesterday I was up at Burnham Beeches in the rain, me and my book. Start you off. The idea is to post a photo wherever you are, find a local landmark so we can recognize where you are, or tag where you are if it isn't so obvious. And let's see how far around the world we can go. So use the hashtag Sentinel Sightings, tag me, and then I'll be able to find it and repost it and retweet it. And let's spread the word and get the word out and see how far we can get the Sentinels out. So Jen, I expect something from Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can figure something out.
So again, signed copy of the book, or an Amazon gift card if you've already got the book, or you've already got a signed copy, or you'd rather have the gift card. You can buy it yourself. It's up to you. So obviously for wherever locations I can ship to, or where gift cards are available. And you've got a month, because I know folks have got to have time to buy the book and find somewhere to take a photo, etc. So this will be running for the whole month. So you can enter as many times as you like. It just needs to be a different location for each photo. So have fun with it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so as I say, I'll leave that one there just for a minute. So that's the Rafflecopter link. That's the link that should take you straight to my competition. So I don't know why it's not. I will check it afterwards. And as I say, I'll either send you a note or post it to the website. Oh. So on that note, I think we're almost out of time.
Oh dear.
I know it goes so quick, doesn't it? It does go
I
so
know.
quick. So on that note, I just want to thank you all for your support. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you for all your questions. It's been really fun. And I just want to raise a glass. I have my champagne to celebrate. To Sentinels Awaken. Long may she travel far and wide. And let's hope she's really successful.
Congratulations, Helen. Well done.
Congratulations.
Thank you so
Brilliant.
much.
Well done.
Lovely,
Yeah,
thank you.
well done for writing it. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm
We
going to
will
enjoy
have
that
many
later.
drinks for you.
Woohoo!
Yes,
Well
you
done.
enjoy. You enjoy. Please do.
Yeah.
Have a lovely Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for taking the time, and enjoy the book.
Am I seeing you tomorrow? Am I seeing you
Oh.
tomorrow?
I expect so.
Okay.
I'll speak to you later.
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well done,
Yeah.
Helen.
Done.
Thank
Yeah,
you
good
so
job.
much.
Thanksgiving. Take care, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have
Bye.
have a nice Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Oh.